This is a story from a while back. Back when I was younger. At that time, the riverbanks in this area were overflowing with bashers. As I passed by the river on my way home from work, I would always see them, but all I did was walk past them every day. Though it bothered me, I never really did anything about them. Or maybe it's more accurate to say I chose not to. I guess everyone felt the same way. If someone had reached out, maybe their lives could have been changed. But no one did anything. And I was no different from everyone else. Then, one day, I noticed a homeless woman in a basher along the river, someone I'd never seen before. The reason I noticed her among so many others was that she was knitting. Amidst the cardboard homes, the area was filled with cans and newspapers, seemingly collected from outside. However, in her case, there were also several skeins of yarn, seemingly well organized. Morning and night, whenever I saw her, she was always knitting something. The things in her hands turned into scarves, sweaters, and various other items, always using green yarn. One time, as I passed by, I glanced sideways and noticed she was using a variety of knitting techniques. It's amazing how she could create so many designs with just one color of yarn. It was truly impressive. Having worked at a fashion magazine for many years, I had never seen such original knitting techniques. Then, on one night on my way home from work, I saw her unraveling a sweater she had painstakingly knitted, turning it back into mere yarn. What a waste! After noticing this, I observed more closely and saw that items nearly finished at night were all unraveled by the next morning. Maybe she didn't have any other yarn. She kept knitting and then unraveling the same yarn. Ever since I realized this repetition, I felt a sense of regret. I wanted to somehow preserve at least one of her knitted creations. But what should I do? Before I knew it, I was constantly thinking about her. Hey, John, what's up with you? Could it be a case of lovesickness? I was lost in thought when my colleague, Troy, teased me. Well, I don't know. If you can't outright deny it, then it must be love. Troy loved these kinds of conversations and looked quite amused. I had never thought about love, but maybe I was indeed enamored with her knitting skills. While I was pondering this, Troy, perhaps misunderstanding something, said with a grin, "Christmas is just around the corner. Why not ask her out on a date? We're not exactly in that kind of relationship." Even though I responded that way, Troy playfully nudged me, saying, "Good luck," and seemed to be having a good time. Really, what a handful. But thanks to Troy, I remembered that Christmas was coming up and came up with an excuse to talk to her. I really wanted to ask her to knit something. That night, I gathered my courage and went straight to where the woman was. She was knitting again today. "Excuse me, hello." "Oh, are you talking to me?" She seemed surprised to be approached by a passerby. Looking cautious, she stared intently at me. I continued in as calm a voice as possible, hoping to ease her wariness. "Yes, you. I've always seen you knitting and thought I'd like to ask you to knit something for me." "Really?" I pulled out a skein of yarn I had just bought from a paper bag. "Could you knit a sweater with this?" She shook her head vehemently and stepped back. "I couldn't possibly do that. Besides, I live like this. I've been watching you from a distance and was impressed by your skills. Of course, I'll pay you. I can pay you in advance. Would you consider doing it?" She hesitated for a bit but then nodded her head in agreement, albeit with confusion. "Okay, I'll do it." From then on, she began knitting the sweater I had requested. Seeing her during my commutes, I started greeting her every morning and evening. When I asked her name, she said it was Katie. "Well, that's amazing. You've made so much progress in just one day. Thank you." I had always admired her work from a distance, but up close, it was truly impressive. I was fascinated to see the yarn taking shape a little more each day. Whenever I praised her, she would look a bit apologetic. "Are you sure someone like me is allowed to be making something for you to wear?" "Absolutely." I reassured her of her talent every time she seemed hesitant. As we talked a bit more each day, she began to share her story. Katie grew up in an orphanage, having no parents since she was very young. Desperate to be independent, she worked hard from her student days, but her jobs never lasted. After moving from job to job, she recently lost her contract at her last company and couldn't find another. Eventually ran out of money and ended up here. "All I can do is knit. I couldn't keep any job for long, but knitting, which I learned as a child, is something I've always continued. I once dreamed of having my own shop filled with my knitting." She smiled faintly. Her skills and sense of design were extraordinary. It's rare to find someone with such talent. It would be such a waste if Katie's work was never shown to the world. A society where someone as skilled as her ends up homeless just shouldn't exist. I felt that strongly. And so, she continued to knit the sweater earnestly. And a few days later, it's finished. The beautifully designed sweater was finally complete. "Wonderful, thank you so much." Expressing my gratitude, she smiled happily. Wearing the sweater to work the next day, it received a lot of compliments. "Wow, what a lovely sweater." All my colleagues praised it. Troy, in particular, seemed to really like it. "Great taste. Which brand is it?" "Well, it was made by a freelance designer who's not yet known to the world. I'd love to meet someone who can create such beautiful designs. It would be interesting to work with her." "That's an idea. I'll talk to her about it." Eager to showcase her talent to the world, I mentioned this opportunity to her after work. "Actually, I work at a publishing house for a fashion magazine. My colleagues really like this sweater and want to meet you. Would you like to visit our editorial department?" She nodded happily, but then her expression turned somber. "Thank you for the kind invitation, but I live like this, and my clothes are all tattered." Indeed, she always wore the same clothes. I knew her background, but it was true that people who didn't know her might judge her appearance. "If you're okay with it, would you like to come to my place? My sister is visiting this weekend. I'll provide a change of clothes and you can take a shower." "That's too much. I couldn't possibly." "Oh, could you teach my sister how to knit? She wants to knit a scarf for her boyfriend, but first, please come to my house." "Okay." So, the following weekend, I invited Katie over to coincide with my sister, Emily's visit. I offered her a shower and I bought her some simple clothes as a gift. When I presented it to her, she shook her head again. "It's too much to accept these clothes. I'm happy just borrowing them." "No, please, don't hesitate to take them. And it would be great if you could teach me how to knit." Reluctantly, she accepted after my sister's insistence. After her bath, Katie, all cleaned up, looked very beautiful. Then I decided to take her to my company. This is the designer who made my sweater. I introduced her and explained her situation to the gathered employees in the meeting room, but they looked skeptical. I thought she was from some brand. I was expecting someone more impressive. Katie, sensing the whispers and the atmosphere, opened her mouth. "I should leave. Sorry for the intrusion." I hurried after her as she quickly left the meeting room. "Katie, wait, please." I knew I didn't belong here. Tears streaming down her face, she crouched down. "It's not like that at all. I'm sorry for forcing you into this situation." I had brought her here, pushing her beyond her comfort zone. All I could do was apologize as she cried quietly. I thought everyone would understand if I explained the reason, but perhaps that was a naive notion. I intended to be supportive of her, but maybe I was just assuming I understood her situation. After she left the office, I returned to the meeting room. Then, my colleague and the department head, Tom, confronted me. Who was that woman you brought? What were you thinking? We can't work with someone we barely know." Tom was especially upset, completely reversing his praise for the sweater she made. Was this the harsh reality? Once homeless, it becomes difficult to re-enter society and work. Despite her hard work and exceptional skills, she couldn't even get a chance to showcase them. Knowing Katie's talents and character only made it more frustrating. The next day, on my way to work, I saw her by the river, still knitting despite everything. Her conviction was strong. Inspired by her, I made a big decision. "Katie, would you like to start a fashion brand with me?" Really? Just like the first time I approached her, she looked stunned. "I'm going to quit my current job and start a new company, where I want to welcome you as the designer." Katie's expression shifted from surprise to seriousness, and after thinking for a while, she slowly shook her head. "Won't you regret leaving your current job, John? And I'm not confident enough to be a designer." I firmly denied her doubts. "To be honest, I want to start this company because I want you to succeed, but I don't want to pressure you if it eases the burden. We can hire other designers, so you can work as part of a team. I will never regret my decision." I was genuinely captivated by Katie's skills. As a craftsman, I wanted to work alongside her. I felt strongly about this. "Why are you so insistent on me? There must be other talented people, right? I've never seen anyone who can create such beautiful designs so meticulously and quickly like you. That's why I want to build a team around you, Katie." Perhaps moved by my heartfelt words, Katie let out a tear. "Okay, I will do it. Thank you so much." I firmly shook the hand she extended. Soon after, I resigned from the publishing house. "Are you out of your mind? You could have had a secure job until retirement here," my boss said, almost in disbelief. "It's okay, just watch what happens next." On the day of my resignation, everyone at the company was either shocked or dismayed, but my subordinate Troy was the only one who supported me. "She's the one, right? The person you mentioned, the one you have feelings for, not just as a woman, but you also admire her skills. You got me, Troy. I'm totally smitten with her, both for her charm and her incredible talent." I knew it. Troy smiled as usual and handed me some documents. "What's this?" "It's a present for your new journey. I graduated from a fashion school, so I have a lot of designer friends. I thought they might be able to help, so I talked to them about you. Some were interested and asked me to pass their contacts to you. Also, I spoke to a friend who works at a TV station." Troy was truly a thoughtful colleague to the end. "Thank you. You're the only one who would do something like this for me." He blushed slightly as he left. Months later, I successfully launched the company and hired 3 designers from the contacts Troy gave me. Then, a TV station Troy had contacted asked to interview us. Until recently, I was homeless, but now I work as a designer in this company. I'm very grateful to the president, Mr. Smith, for giving me this opportunity." Katie confidently responded to the interviewer. After the broadcast, we received numerous interview requests from various media outlets. Initially, we gained attention as a fashion brand started by a former homeless designer, but soon everyone was captivated by the beautiful designs. Katie's unique skills were praised by other designers, and our company rapidly grew into a well-known name in the fashion industry. Various fashion magazines started featuring our brand. And then finally, "John, would you mind featuring in our magazine?" An offer came from the fashion magazine I used to work for. The caller was Tom, who had been harshly critical before. "I'm sorry about what happened before. I deeply regret my rude words. There's no one in the industry now who doesn't know about your brand. We've realized how incredible it is. Please, will you feature in our magazine?" This was the first time I saw him so polite. Yes, of course. The article was published, and it marked the beginning of our brand being recognized as a staple in the industry. "I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Smith. Meeting you changed my life. Could you please stop calling me Mr. Smith now? Oh, yes. We both are living a happy life, both personally and professionally. I truly feel fortunate to have believed in her and her talents.